Exam season is here. Every household is like the last over of a test match. But what's most exciting is what comes after the summer holidays. While summer holidays are something that children look forward to the most, it poses a great dilemma for parents. What do I do for 2 months with my child? How do I keep my child engaged and reduce the screen time? What do I do to send my child outside, outdoors? So, is any outdoor activity the answer to these questions? What exactly can we do to make outdoors more enriching and special? Welcome to this episode of The Right Angle by Youth COSMO. Today, we have an interesting guest with us. After spending 8 years at the Wall Street in NYC, she returned to Pune and co founded Half the Grid with her husband. They started experimenting with concepts like sustainability, toxin free living, forest farming, organic farming, all of it keeping their two lovely children at the center of it all. Mother of two lovely, beautiful outdoorsy kids, for her, experiential learning, taking children out in the nature, is something that is most close to her heart. Please welcome Reshma Kane of Half the Grid. Hi, Reshma.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us today.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
So, to begin this conversation, we'll come back to the main topic a little later. Can you tell us more about your childhood? How was it while you were growing up?
I am born and brought up in Pune. So obviously, I've lived half my life on the Tekadi, the other half at my grandparents' place in the summer holidays, or my aunts and uncles who lived out of Pune during the summer holidays. Interestingly, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was a forest conservator here in Maharashtra. So my mother and her siblings have spent their childhood in the jungles of Maharashtra. So having grown up with all these stories, of how they've lived in the forest definitely had a big influence on us. Also, my mother used to run a plant nursery when I was a kid. So not that all these things at the time I felt had an influence on me, but you know how subconsciously everything does make a difference. So as I grew up, I used to feel like I am any other Pune child who's grown up going to the Tekri every evening, going to Deccan Gymkhana or PYC for some sport or another. And the rest of the time trying to run around in the garden and catching butterflies and all the things that the 90s kids have all done. But I think as I grew up, I realized the impact that my childhood really had on my adult life. So definitely, I would say that I was blessed to be born in the 90s. I was blessed to be born in a country like India, where we have so much exposure to what is outside our homes, and we don't have a life that is continuously inside AC malls and movie theaters. So it was a beautiful childhood, I would say.
I totally agree with you. I mean, even I'm a 90s kid and I remember going out to play or being out was the only option we used to have in the evening. Playing hide and seek and Dabba Express and the Lingorcha on the road was something that even we used to enjoy during holidays, summer or not. So I totally agree with what you're trying to bring here. But to set the context right for this conversation, I want you to sort of define what do we mean by outdoor here. And I can see that your childhood has somewhere influenced the way you're bringing up your kids. So can we just set the context and the tone right for this conversation?
Sure. So I feel like in today's world, a lot of times we interchange outside and outdoors pretty quickly. While going outside can mean going to somebody's house or going to the mall or going to a restaurant or going for a class, gymnastics indoor class. Whereas going outdoors really means stepping out, going to parks, going to anything that is a more natural environment where you don't necessarily have to do a chartered activity, where you can have some amount of free play, some amount of educational experiences, some amount of curiosity in the children or in the adults that is really, really taken to the next level. So I do believe that going outdoors also means that you have some time where nobody's telling you what to do. You can make your mistakes. You can breathe fresh air, hopefully. You can toss your shoes and walk bare feet, get hurt, fall down, get bitten by things. And also, really, this is part of life. So, how you grow up with all these things. And we'll talk more about this as we continue with the conversation. But how these small things at a toddler level, you feel these are very small things, and really does the child need it? Or sometimes you feel that they're very big things, that oh my god, my child got bitten by something or it got stung by something, it's huge, I can't have my child go through all these things in the outdoors, they have to be in a very controlled environment. And how that also has an impact going forward, and we can discuss that much more later. But I think these are very important things that every child needs to get exposed to in the outdoors.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for setting that tone right off. I just want to ask you one thing, who drove this? Was it your children's affinity to be out and to be free, to be unplugged, untethered? Was that what drove you both to follow that path of journey with your children? Or did you introduce this journey to your children? How was it? What came first? I mean, who drove it for whom?
I think it's a very good question. And I think it's a little bit of both. So, Abhi and I, my husband Abhi, we both have lived in Pune, and then we went to the US for our further education. I worked there. We both lived in hyper urban cities in the US, in New York and in Boston. And we experienced that side of life as well, where you're living a very busy life, you're living a life that is from dawn to dusk, pretty indoorsy, pretty work oriented. And obviously those were the 20s, when we were in our 20s, highly ambitious, and we had to do what we had to do back in the day. And then slowly but steadily, we started seeing the lifestyle difficulties or disorders that one gets to see if you live a hyper urban life. And then there somewhere we started getting more and more drawn towards how we have spent our childhood, and having that balance of a little bit of this and a little bit of that. By the time we moved back to India, we'd had our son, and then my daughter followed very quickly. And my son is a very energetic child. And we were of the mindset that if he has that much energy, we need to expend it. So we loved going up the Tekri. So we would take him up we went to Sinhagad with him at the age of 6 months. We would take him up the Tekri right from the time he was 3 and 4 months. So it was a combination of both. We both love spending time outside. We love hiking, we love swimming, we love a lot of things that are basically outside. My husband is a big picnic freak. So even simple things like just going outside for a picnic and carrying a picnic basket with our children and putting down a little satranji and sitting on it and sipping on a cup of coffee while the children are playing was something that we enjoy doing, and so do our kids. And we never wanted to reach a point where, even before we had children, we had this little ethos that we don't want to be those parents who force feed our children. We didn't want to be those parents who, by the end of the day, we are tired that, oh my God, my children are bouncing off the walls and what do I do with this? And I didn't want labels like he's hyper energetic or she has too much unspent energy. And we said it was sort of our prerogative that we make sure that it is channelized in the right direction. So the more they played, the more hungry they got. And then the more hungry they got, they ate on their own, where we didn't have to force feed them. So it was like, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. We both are very outdoorsy and we love the outdoors. And our children also brought out even more of that side. And then as an ecosystem, all of us, we're this wild family of 4, where at every opportunity that we get, or we find opportunities to just step out and be in the outdoors.
So then I should actually call you or maybe all the mothers and mother of dragons, honestly. I think that should be the term given to all mothers. With what you're saying and what I've been listening to my friends also talk about their kids, I think that is the right title to be given to all mothers. Absolutely. So one interesting story that, I think came up when we spoke last, that your friends have gifted you a cow for your 40th birthday. So what is that story and how did your kids react to that? There's a cow coming right in your farm, nice tung. How did they react to it and how are they What is their relationship now with Miss Cow in the farm?
Yes. Oh my God, that is a hilarious story, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to love this. So I recently turned 40, and we had a little get together at our farm with our close friends, and I I wanted people to not be dressed in track pants and t-shirts. I wanted to feel special. So I wanted people to dress nicely for me because I like to dress up. And I told everybody that they have to be nicely dressed, and the thing is at the farm, and come for lunch, and all these things. And behind my back, I don't know what happened, and they conspired that they will not come dressed up, but they will come dressed as proper Indian farmers. And to add to the whole thing, one of them came up with an idea that we have to gift Reshma a cow for her 40th birthday, because nobody would have had done that. Um, and they thought it would be very out of the box, which by the way it was. And they thought it will create quite a wave, which by the way it did. And but it also turned out to be one of the best birthday gifts and the most hilarious birthday gifts that I have received. And they decided it was a pregnant cow, by the way, so I got like a double dhamaka. And while we've always had cows at our farm, we always had adopted cows, so we'd never really bought a cow. We'd always adopted cows from our neighborhood farmers who felt like they don't give enough milk, or they're not able to have a calf for whatever reasons. So we had about 5-6 cows at our farm that were adopted. So this was our first sort of pedigree, full-grown, pregnant cow. And they even decided a name for it. They said, we'll call the cow Louis, and we'll call the calf to be calf Vuitton. So it becomes Louis Vuitton. And my children thought that this was so cool. It was such a great idea. And I think that for the first time, I have started building a relationship with this cow. I don't know why. Somehow I never really had such a close relationship with the other cows that we had at our farm. And along with me, my children, every time we go to the farm, they feed the cow. They all identify, this one is the cow that I got for her birthday, for her gift. And we're all counting down till the time that she delivers. And she's doing well. She's free range. So she gets to roam around all over the forest and all over the farm. So she gets to eat everything that she desires to eat while she's helping another calf grow. And the children, while in the beginning they were a little inhibited and a little afraid of how the cow is going to react to them, but I think over time now they feed her, and they're pretty confident that she won't harm them if they don't harm her. So it's really cute. It's adorable to see how one new life in the farm just changes the dynamics of so many things with the children.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting story. I remembered it, so I thought maybe the audience would love to hear it. That brings me to a question, Reshma. I see that your children are connected to the animals in your farm quite at a young age, and that must be leading to a different kind of empathy that they have to animals in general. So, with your kids as a live example that you see in front of you, would you like to comment on why is it necessary that to take children out in the nature and get them to connect with nature, and how it helps them develop as a person in a wholesome manner?
I think it's a very, very important topic, and it's a one close to my heart. See, in the last 70 years, about 70,000 new chemical compounds have been discovered and let out in our environment through different mediums. And out of which, about 150, 160 of them have been found in our daily detergents or disinfecting agents in our homes. So the more time our children are spending in our homes, fortunately or unfortunately, we have different types of detergents, different types of disinfecting agents, different types of paints. And this is a whole different topic altogether. But what I'm trying to get at is there's so many different toxins and so many different chemicals that our children are now exposed to, that we as kids or our parents as kids were completely unaware of. And again, this is a completely different topic, but kids these days, there's a 43% in rise in the kids that have asthma in the past 1 decade as the last decade. And these have all been attributed to the disinfectants in our homes, which we so luxuriously use in our homes. And if this doesn't ensure that you take your kids outside where the air is so much purer, they are not really exposed to those many indoor toxins. We think that we are sitting inside our homes in a very safe and a very toxin-free environment. And I feel sometimes that is exactly the opposite. Yes, there is pollution sometimes outside, but they get used to that fresh air outside. Secondly, I feel that their attention spans really get impacted. There are studies that say that even spending 20 minutes outdoors, increases a child's attention span by about 2 to 3 minutes, which, by the way, is huge considering an average child's attention span at a time is about 5 to 7 minutes. And there's so many kids these days that we say that, they don't have the attention spans. The digital world is sort of taking away the amount of time the kids can spend on a particular thing. And I think just by spending 20 minutes outdoors, that change happens in about a month to 3 months, is what I have experienced in my children. They're able to be so much more curious. They're able to be so much more compassionate. And I'll give you a little story. My daughter and my son, they're both out in the lawn or on the tekri or on our farm, in our forest, anywhere that we go. And we try consciously as parents to not use the word no as much as possible. They'll fall, they'll make mistakes, and they'll learn to fail. And that's part of the whole process. Obviously, we take care that they're in a safe environment and there is no safety hazard. But few things here and there are essential part of their growing up years. So there were a couple of times when our kids have been stung by bees. They've been stung by survant, those hairy caterpillars that are there while playing outside. And the first experience obviously is traumatizing for you as well as the child. And a lot of it depends on how you react to that moment. A lot of times something happens and like, oh my God, and then the child will be like, oh my God. But I think that if the parent itself is conscious that yes, it's a bee sting and it's all right, he's not going to hopefully need a hospitalization. There are such small remedies, and yes, it hurts, it pains, it's a bee sting, and the mother's heart also hurts. But I genuinely think that tough love is a little requirement in today's generation where they need to experience these things, physical hardships at a younger age for them to be more resilient emotionally, mentally, and physically at an adult stage. The resilience that they are able to build at a younger age. So like I said, let me get back to that story. My kids have been stung by bees. They've been stung by survanters. They've seen a cobra right in front of them where, they were walking and a full-blown cobra was standing in front of them. And they're like, there's a cobra. And, for a second, I disbelieved them, like it must be a snake. And they're calling it a cobra. And then as I went closer, I'm like, oh, it is really a cobra. And how I should not panic, because if I panic, they're going to panic. I was mild heart attack inside me because the kids were going towards where the snake's home was. And obviously the snake, when some threat is coming towards it, it's going to be in an attack mode. So the kids went away, they ran away, and we ensured that they were safe, and the bees have stung them and they have been fine from that. The survanters have stung them. And so there was this time when we'd taken a few cousins to our farm and we were all sitting and chit-chatting and the kids were playing. And one of my cousins got stung by a survanter. And while I wouldn't say that they panicked, but there was this sense of tension that, oh my God, we're in the wild and now there is a survanter and now what is to be done? Within 10 seconds, Rishi, my son, ran over there. Oh, that's a survant. Nothing happens with it. I have gotten bitten by it like 4-5 times before this. And the moment he said it, suddenly they were like, oh, if he is fine with it, perhaps I should be fine with it, And he totally did the whole first aid for my cousin. And he used a sellotape to remove it. And he put honey and he put all these other things on it. And he ensured that the thing is fine. But the minute the stigma around things that happen in nature is removed, right? These are all difficulties. These are hurdles. Our regular lives also have hurdles. Our regular life also have difficulties. So I personally believe that if you put children in slightly controlled yet difficult situations and they learn to overcome those situations at this age, Imagine what they'll be able to do when they grow older. Imagine what they'll be able to do when they're faced with a situation which they haven't ever come across, or which is an uncomfortable situation, which is a painful situation. And we live in such a, as they say, an entitled generation, that very few people these days are lucky enough to have a childhood where they do come across failure and learn what failure is. They do come across difficult, physically difficult situation, whether it is climbing a mountain that is above their reach, or whether it is swimming across a lake along with adults, which is beyond your reach, or trying to tame honeybees, or trying to even tame a cow, right? Play with a cow and find yourself being inhibited or being afraid of a cow, and then reach a point where now you're not afraid of the cow, right? These are such difficult situations for our little children in their lives, that for them they have done a big thing. And when they feel that they have done something that they could not do, or when somebody has told them that this is a difficult situation, you will not be able to do this, and when they do it, their confidence levels suddenly takes a jump. So every time you do something that is uncomfortable, and that's true for adults as well, every time you do something that you feel you may not have been able to do and you do it, it increases your confidence levels to a level where nothing else, no personality development class can do, right? So I feel like introducing your children to the outdoors brings about these situations quite naturally. You don't have to orchestrate these situations. So in my personal opinion, raising two of these wild children that I have at home, they are able to, maybe they'll learn what 2 plus 2 is a little bit later in life, which, by the way, their school is really good at. So while they learn that as well, I think that they have benefited so much out of nurturing our farm, nurturing the animals at our farm. We have a little terrace garden at home, which has over 70, 75 varieties of plants, and they're able to identify and grow almost all of them. And so proudly they say that my eye is a farmer. And so proudly they say that one day even I want to live in a place like this. And without it having to come from me or my husband, if they are able to find love towards the outdoors, I think I have won it. I think it's really, really beautiful to see that.
That's a beautiful story. But one thing that drew my attention to was the in the snake story part of it, where you showed that you had not panicked, and you showed that it was okay to have a snake right in front of you. You don't have to panic. You don't have to react in a negative manner. So somewhere I'm coming to the point that should love for being out in the nature, or should the value for learning while being in nature be driven somewhere by parents as well, somewhere with the fact that parents should also find value in the fact that if my child goes out in nature, he or she is going to connect well with the natural environment, he or she is going to learn something more which is not probably taught in their classroom. What are your views on this?
See, I feel that children at this age, under the age of 12, look at their parents as idols. And they will only emulate what the parent is doing. So if they see that my parent is enjoying playing tennis, they will also somewhere try their hand at tennis. If my parents are working 16 hours a day, for them that is a normal thing to do when they become adults. If they see that my parents, even in spite of working a 16-hour day, still find 1 hour to exercise, or still find 1 hour to go outside or do something for their body and their mind, it imprints in the mind of that child that yes, this is also important. So definitely it is parent driven. While all children are born with the love for nature, because finally we are also part of nature. We may be the most intelligent living organism on this planet Earth, but we are still part of this ecosystem. We are still part of this entire biodiversity. So we are all born with that connection to nature. We're all born with the connection to get attracted to everything that is outdoor. So what happens is conditions change, environment changes, and children start thinking that this is what is right, because that's what, especially kids born in an urban setting, they start believing that living indoors and living inside these boxes is what is normal. And it does take a lot for the parent to drive to the child that being outdoors is important, and that only goes by example. You cannot successfully tell a child that you go spend 2 hours outside while I sit here and watch Netflix. It's not possible. It will happen for maybe once, twice, thrice, 10 times. In the 11th time, the child will say, I am also sitting here and I'm going to watch Netflix. So if you want your kids to go out, and I highly advocate it, you have to go out also. You have to, believe that it's good for you, and hence it is good for your child. So no parent sitting at home will be able to successfully drive a child outdoors. It has to be parent driven. It has to be seen in a family activity. And there's multiple benefits to it. As we are growing older and our children are growing older, there is a huge need to find that one activity or two activities that you can bond with your children with. And it could be playing tennis, it could be simply going for a run, it could be going for a walk, it could be reading a book out on the lawn, whatever. But definitely there needs to be an activity which you can sustain with your child. And why I use the word sustain is because if you're being artificially driven by it, it's not going to sustain. So if you're able to develop this one activity with your child, and you can take that when they are in their teens and when they're in their 20s and as adults as well, it's something that keeps you connected with your children as well. So at a very young age, we have formed that bond with our children, that we bond in the outdoors. Whether it is that we go for a hike, or whether it is that we go to the park, or we go on the takery, or we go cycling, whatever it is. But as long as we are outside, we have a bond. And again, the side benefit to it is it keeps us healthy as well. It keeps us so fit that we always have this fun competition where Anushka, Rishi tell us that today I can do 10 push-ups, tomorrow I'll be able to do 20, and you'll never be able to match up to it. So it sort of gives us that drive as well, that, maybe if they are running a 5K under 30 minutes, one day even I should be able to run a 5K under 30 minutes and run with them while chatting with them. So I think it's a reverse aging for ourselves. It keeps us healthy, but I cannot emphasize it enough that going outdoors is a parent-led activity. And if the parents prioritize this, it will come so easily to the children.
True, true. I mean, we have met a lot of parents who have expressed this desire and concern that I want to take my child out. I want to give this unique experience to my child, because when they come down to our katta and they indulge in the kind of activities we have activities for parents as well. So we see parents enjoying, children enjoying, all of them enjoying together. And by the end of the 2 hours, they are like, we want to do more of this. Yeah. We want to indulge ourselves and our children into more of. So I totally agree when you say that it's a parent-led activity. That brings me to a point that when you talk about the idea of holidays, whether it's summer holidays, winter holidays, any long duration holidays, many of them focus on, spending the child's time in activities that are more skill-based. Okay, so you have, let's say you have 2 months, let's spend this time in maybe getting yourself a new hobby, or developing a new skill, or go to the computer classes. Somewhere we as educators have come across this pattern that long duration holidays are dedicated to honing one extra skill in the child, which is eventually going to lead to some kind of development in the direction of their career, or in the direction of securing admission in a good college later. But nowhere in this whole picture is spending time outside, spending time in nature, indulging in literally an hour of doing nothing under the tree is considered as a process of learning, is considered as a process of, individual development and upbringing in a child. So have you also observed this, or what would be your views on this?
So I'll tell you my personal experience. While I 100% agree that our children need to gain skills far more than probably the need was when we were children, what we were doing in our fifth and sixth standard, kids are doing it today in the first and second standard quite successfully. I mean, I get quite amazed at the things that the children do and are interested in at such a young age, which I was doing, in seventh standard and eighth standard. But I see it across the generation that they're all very, very quick in learning. So I do understand that the parents find only the summer holidays or, after they come back from school for the children to learn new skills, and it's a necessity. But I also feel that one has to find time and one has to give priority to things that are not very structured as well, to things that are outdoor driven as well. And I'm not saying you have to spend the entire summer vacation, loitering around or doing nothing and just reading under the tree. While that is a great idea, but urban kids or urban parents need to have some more skill-based activities. But I feel that this, in fact, becomes an advantage to the other skills that you do. We all know that having negative space in our mind actually makes sure that whatever positive activities we are doing are more focused. So going outside in nature helps in more than two ways. One, that like I said, it helps in your attention span, right? Your attention span increases. What I have seen in my children is the minute they are doing their sport or we are going hiking or, we are going outdoors in the farm or doing anything, they are using a lot of problem solving skills. They are building a lot of strategy based analysis just through nature, just by being curious in nature. And I feel that's such a better way for them to learn problem solving, to be more analytical, to be more objective in things, to learn that life is not fair, to learn that if I use this strategy, this may happen, and if I use this strategy, that may happen. In a more natural setting, it only helps the other skill-based activities. So yes, your children must go through skill-based activities, but I think this is only going to add to all those activities that a child does. So that's why I always say that I promote that one child or a family must spend 1,001 hours outdoors, outside. And it's really not that hard. So that comes to around 41 days of the year. Even if you spend 10 days of those 41 days for your summer holidays, you go to the Himalayas for a trek, instead of just going to a very hyper-urban city, only to a hyper-urban city. And I'm not saying you won't enjoy doing that, but accompanied with an urban city, you can also take them to a forest, go for a forest safari, go for a trek to the Himalayas, take them to the beaches. While you're in Goa, take them to the mangroves of Goa. There are so many places in our country outside, around Maharashtra, the Sayadri ranges, where you're able to spend at least 10 days in your summer holidays. Now, the rest of the 30 days that are left, of the 52 weeks that are there in the year, or fine, forget the 1 month or 2 months of the summer holidays, but of the 40 weeks that are there, if you only spend 1 day of the 30 weeks that are available outside, I think you're covering the 100,001 hours outside, right? And if you're able to do that, the children will thrive in the other activities that they do so naturally without us having to intervene. And I think that is the magic of nature, right? That it itself by nature teaches you so many things, even coming down to patience. So when I started growing a baby forest, it has taken me so much patience to see that tree from nothing to like a little tree now. And I'll tell you an experience. We used to do this community farming where children and their parents or grandparents used to come and take a piece of land and do farming over there. And all these children who came, and they planted their favorite vegetables, if they had any, cherry tomatoes and broccoli and bengan and lady's fingers and sunflowers and regular flowers or whatever that they wished to. in their small patches of land. Some even planted rice. And they would come back the next Sunday, and then they would come back the next Sunday, and they were like, what? Like, what is this? It's been 2 weeks and nothing is up. And over time, we realized that the kids on their own learned to be patient. In the first cycle of all the plants that they planted, we saw so much impatience that, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, why is it taking so much time? When is this plant going to grow? And eventually, they started becoming so much more compassionate to the entire process that, oh, by the end, they were like, oh, this is how long it takes to grow this vegetable, or this is how long it grows to grow few tomatoes that from our dal anyway we eliminate and just eat the dal. And then one fine day when they felt that, oh, their tomatoes are nice and ripe, they were eaten away by some bird, or they were eaten away by some bug attack that would come. And I think to even learn that everything you grow is not yours. You can't be so selfish that birds are also part of this biodiversity. Bugs are also part of this biodiversity. All other farms are using chemical fertilizers. Where are the bugs going to come? To a farm that doesn't use chemical fertilizers. So this is like their oasis, right? So for my son, he doesn't eat fruits. So for the first time in our terrace garden, one time a bird must have come and put a seed of watermelon. And randomly a watermelon vine grew. And we saw that it was bearing 2 watermelons. And eventually my kids saw it from just a little creeper to a big vine to 2 baby watermelons to 2 big watermelons, which eventually my son harvested, which he cut, and for the first time he ate fruit. So I was like, wow, so if he plants it, he's going to eat it because he has enjoyed the journey of it growing for 3 months. And otherwise, I would give him a nicely chopped watermelon in his plate and he'll be like, Mala nako hai. I don't like this. So I think what I'm trying to get at is that all these things really take a toll, a positive toll on our children. They learn so many things which only add to the skill-based classes that they go to. And it's better learning because it's self-learning than what parents teach them.
Interesting. I mean, this is sweet, what you said. Your son developed the love for fruits after after he got his own homegrown, hand-grown watermelon in your garden. One more thing that we sort of feel that, if children are exposed, I'm taking the example of this farm that you just mentioned. The part, where the children in your farm, they realized that good fruits, even if they're ready, they are open to be eaten by birds and insects as well. They have equal right on it. So, the way any negativities are also looked at in a positive manner, exposing children to the natural habitats around us in whatever state they are in, we feel can empower them to feel that this is mine and I'm supposed to protect it. And this condition is because of us. Do you think, and many of the parents or many adults also feel that no, we should not expose our children to these things. It's really not, palatable to the eyes as well. So, what do you think about, should we be open to expose children to the state of the environment that is in, by taking them out, by taking them in nature, by indulging them in activities around the natural habitat in whatever state it is, and make them love it and make them own it?
Yeah, I think nature teaches them imperfections, right? Like life is imperfect, nature is imperfect, we are all imperfect, and there is perfection in imperfections. And nature is the best teacher for the kids to learn that. So once they're out and they're using natural material to build something, they're using sticks and stones to form something, they're playing with it and they're getting their hands dirty and they're sitting in the sun and getting baked and getting thirsty. There's so many small valuable lessons in all of these things, and then there are times my children come to me and I am bored, what do? I said, very good, now it's time that your brain will open up, right? Get bored, get a little bit more bored, so bigger brain will open up. Because only if they're bored can they think of what they want to do. Otherwise, these days, children, and I mean, we are guilty of it too, we want continuous external gratification, we want continuous external stimulation. So either I'm reading a book, or I'm watching television, or I'm chatting with somebody, or I'm talking on the phone, or I'm working, or I'm studying. there is continuous stimuli that is required for us humans to not be bored. Otherwise, now we have social media, if there is nothing else for adults. I think being in nature helps them develop a very important faculty, which is that of getting bored. And the minute you get bored, when there is no external stimuli, they start thinking in the most creative ways. I think some of the most creative things that my children have done has come out of boredom. And when the typical mind stops thinking is when you're bored. And when you're bored, actually your creativity comes out.
I'm sure most artists also
Correct.
might
You
resonate
need
with
that
this.
negative
Yeah.
space. You need that negative space of doing nothing, even if it is momentarily. And to know that it's okay to get bored and you don't have to rely on something external to fulfill that need to do something. And learning that now is the best time to do it, and even for us as adults, I think it helps us also realize that, oh, the minute I'm bored, I shift to social media. The minute I'm bored, I go to Instagram. The minute I'm bored, I'll call up a friend. The minute I'm bored, I'll be, opening the door and chatting with a neighbor. And it's okay sometimes to get bored, and it's okay sometimes to bring out that creativity of doing something that you've never done, that you've procrastinated in your life. But I personally feel all this only happens when you're exposed to what is real. What is real is nature. What is nature is in the outdoors. And really, we are so blessed that we live in a country like India where within half an hour to 1 hour to 2 hours, we are able to access some of the best mountains, some of the best rivers, while that may need some work, some of the best lakes. And I'm not saying best in terms of the quality of water is like Switzerland or, but we are able to go there in spite of living in cities that are so populous. And if we don't take advantage of that, then you're devoiding yourself of such a beautiful environment outside. So I think it's a necessity. It's not just a choice.
You also mentioned that your son had been to an interesting summer camp. So what is the change that you observed in him, when he came back from there?
So it took me quite a, he went last year when he was 8 for a summer camp, which was some 5 days long by himself with a great group of kids and a person who I 100% trust will take care of my children, Pooja. So, of course, I had to take a beating from his grandparents that how can you send them at such a young age and, let them enjoy childhood, and why does he need to go when he's just 8 years old? He could do it when he's 15. But somewhere inside of me, I felt like he's ready. And as he went, he had been told that he has to pack his own bag. He'd been given a list and he had to pack his own bag. If he forgot something, it was his responsibility. If he took something, great, it was his responsibility and he fulfilled it. And he did it really well. They went by train, they went to Nagzira for a summer camp. They met with all the tribal people around there. And I think multiple things happened out of it. One, of course, he became super independent because he was out by himself, without his parents, without his grandparents, without any support system. Just with a bunch of kids, having a good time, learning his own responsibilities, learning to eat on his own, figuring out when he's hungry, when he's not hungry, what needs to be done if he's thirsty, how does he get water, to wash his own plate, to put it back in his bag because they had to carry steel plates. How to reduce trash, how to reduce waste. And then I figured that once he is back and he was, how kids are, they don't usually come back and just blabber everything out. They take time over the next few weeks, slowly, during bedtime or, all these things. He was telling me the little bit stories that happened during the entire camp. And I feel, did he drastically change as a person overnight? No, it doesn't happen like that. But did he get confident that he'll be able to do things he never thought he could do? Yes. Did he learn that there are less privileged people in the world than he is? Yes. Did he realize that we're all humans, but life is different for every human? Yes. And did he learn that we're also part of this nature and this entire ecosystem? 100%. He came back making bird sounds. He came back telling me stories of the jungles, which I never thought at the moment he would even be able to understand. So it was an invaluable experience, in my opinion, for him, and I will definitely send him this year again.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, as we bring the conversation to a close, would you like to give some, small little tips or bites to our parents who are watching this?
I think being in the outdoors, being in nature, living the sustainable life and everything, the key hack is that you have to have fun while doing it. You can't make this like a serious topic where chalo now 6 to 8 we will be outside. It can't be that. It has to be fun. The only way the children will do it is if it is fun. So if you have to take the kids outside, if you have to go outside, there has to be enjoyment. There has to be a time when you're laughing, you're giggling, you're doing fun things, you are becoming a child, your child is making fun of you. And the entire experience is something where everybody's waiting, when is the next time this is going to happen. Unless this happens, it's only going to be a something that you do from 6 to 8, or something that I have to do because my parents have said so. So I think the whole fun is that you have fun with your children in this experience of going outside. And if you genuinely have fun, it's some experiences will change all of us forever. So
Brilliant, brilliant, awesome stuff. So, just like Reshma just mentioned that, going out, being out in the nature, spending time in nature is not shouldn't even be a compulsive activity. It should, or the way it had been before, when in the Gurukul time, when it was a part of life. If that becomes a part of life in whatever little ways we can, us adults and hence our children, it is going to go a long way in the way we bring up the next generation. The world, the nature, the environment around us, whatever crisis we see today is somewhere and everywhere driven by the way humans have put themselves above everything else. If we are able to raise a more conscious generation simply by exposing them to the natural world outside and building that beautiful, benign love for nature, we are going to do a lot more good to this earth. We are going to be able to conserve this planet in a much wholesome, in a much sustainable manner. So thank you so much, Reshma, for being with us today. We had an amazing conversation and we should do this again.
for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.